watching Metropole Television. This is Business AM. My name is Simba Elijah Charles Giage. Now, let's understand the transport and logistics sector in the country. Now, we do know how pertinent that is in moving the economy. And if you look at where we are right now, the only services that are allowed to operate, even as we continue with cessations of movement into select counties, if you belong to the logistics and transport, you are quite well sure that you belong to the essential services docket. Now, the economy, moving the economy also is pretty much dependent on this sector as well. This morning, we're going to look at the way in which it has been affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. And we're pretty much going to try and understand, therefore, how to place yourself or your business, therefore, within this sector. Which is why we are joined this morning by George Mboya. He is logistics specialist, Chartered Institute of Logistics and Transport. Mr. Mboya, welcome to Metropole Television.
Thank you.
Somebody would want to differentiate between transport and logistics. I was going to ask you that. What is the difference and how do they integrate?
I would not do that without going into the background of logistics.
Yes.
Logistics actually coined from the armed forces because there are some aspects of business the armed forces have been doing so well that the business environment is trying to copy. Logistics is a science of movement. Anything that moves, you have moved from your house into the city center.
Yes.
And the essential services teams in the health sector, in the fresh goods and services sector, agriculture sector have been moving. Now, as a businessman, you must move optimally. And the armed forces have coined some aspects of movement, because in the armed forces, if you don't move properly and accurately and everything, you lose your life.
Yes.
Now, bringing it to the business sector, there are reasons why logistics is coming now. There are three things that have connived to make logistics a destination. Number one is globalization. Globalization, and then number two is technology, and three is the complexity of the customer that we have today. What am I saying? Globalization has made sure that you are in Nairobi, Kenya, but you know what happens in Australia, you know what is going on in China, you know what people are eating in, and wearing in America, and you want to behave the same because you are a member of the global village. So technology has enabled that to happen. Think about the mobile phone, think about the TV, think about all the internet has made the world a very small place. That before, we used to send information by bus. It goes to the village before everyone knows it. Or during the telegram, let's even go before that.
Yes.
The telegram took days, even weeks to get information in country. Today, something happens in any corner of this country, we are able to get it within that time. That has made the consumer, the customer, the third pillar of this complication, to be very complex. The customer of today wants whatever it requires yesterday. They are making the order, but they wanted it to have been brought.
Yes.
The speed at which the world is moving, the changes, the complexities, and the varieties that are involved in products make logistics an obvious destination, because the customer service expectation of everyone must be succinct. You go to a supermarket, you want a needle, and you want to buy a car there, and you want your madam to make their hair there, and you want a playground there for your children as they wait. That is serious complexity.
Yes.
Now, how do we achieve that complexity is what has brought logistics. We then have to go back to the whole chain to look at where the rain is beating us, so that we tighten it to enable the customer services to be done.
Pretty much.
Now, what activities do we have in logistics? That's where now issues like manufacturing comes in. Issues of sourcing Before you manufacture, you have to source,
Yes.
get the various raw materials, put them together. The mobile phone could be made in China, but the rubber could have come from West Africa.
Yes.
The face could have come from another country. They all meet in China for manufacturing. All these processes must be done in a way that at the end of the day, the consumer can pay, the consumer can appreciate, it gets there at the time it's required to be there,
Yes.
and everyone gets happy.
Yes.
That is the challenge that we have in this.
Pretty much.
Manufacturing is one of them. In between here is transport. The movement of all this, rubber is coming from West Africa, is going for processing, maybe in Europe, then it ends up in China, where the mobile phone is being assembled. Assembly is done. Some of it is road, some of it is air, some of it is sea, a combination of all these transport systems. Then there is warehousing, there's storage along the way within the manufacturing sites at KPA. Along the way, as it comes through SGR, goes to Naivasha or wherever it is, we unpack it, break the bulk, or put all the goods together. There are a lot of people there across along the way also.
Yes.
A lot of vessels, drivers, conductors, clearing agents, KRAs involved. CABS gets involved to ensure that we have the kind of quality that we can accept in the country.
Yes.
Then we go to what we call distribution. It's already in Nairobi or in Naivasha. How does it go to the last mile, the final consumer? All that complexity is what has now brought logistics into the fore.
Yes.
Most of these activities traditionally were thought of as clerical. You know, when I tell people I'm a logistics specialist and transport is in it, they first of all see a matatu driver. Rightly or wrongly so.
Yes, yes.
But the thing is more complex than a matatu driver can do.
Yes.
This is the management of the whole chain that anyone can drive, but not everyone can unpack and pack the whole chain from end to end optimally.
Pretty much.
This is where we are.
Okay. Now, I just want to get your 2 cents on what the effect of the COVID-19 pandemic has been, especially in the transport and logistics sector, as we go down to exactly what we're moving into as a sector in the country. So, yes, you were classified under the essential services. We do expect that your sector has not been really that much touched, but what would you say have been the direct effects of the COVID-19 pandemic in the transport and logistics industry in the country?
Thank you. I went through the chain intentionally,
yes,
so that we go through the journey from end to end and see what happens. Then I will ask one question.
Yes.
Can we do without transport for one single day? What happens? Nothing is moving. You are not even moving on your two feet. No movement. What will happen? Think about it just for a minute. Even for 1 minute, the whole world, nothing is moving. This is what the pandemic was trying to bring to the society.
Yes.
A situation where lockdown, assume we had a total lockdown. What is going to happen? Food cannot travel from its source to the end. No service can be done. Everything. So COVID-19 affected logistics in a way that I don't think anything else has.
Yes.
And we do not still appreciate how long this will be, because a situation where goods cannot get to market is serious. A situation where we cannot even get health services when we need them, it is very serious. A situation where people cannot travel out of their country. All countries need each other.
Yes.
People travel across the world for trade, so that you carry what you have to where it is not, for consumption, for services and others. And that is not possible. For the past 3 months, it's been, I wanted to travel and I can't travel.
Yes.
And a lot of people suffer as a result of that, because they cannot get the service that they would have. It therefore means we must be able to change, innovate, to be able to conform with the changes that we cannot do anything about.
Yes.
Doctors are trying across the world, the WHO, all the people, and for the last 3 months, nothing much has been done. Some organizations have not been able to work. People have not been able to earn. People are going hungry, literally.
Yes.
I hope that captures the.
It pretty much captures where the picture is, but
just touches the surface of it.
Tip of the iceberg. Yes.
Some people are really feeling it.
Yes.
That's what I say.
Yes. All right. Now, we're coming from budget 2020. 2021, Ukuri Yatani did table that document. Yes. And I know you're looking keenly on where the stress for Ukuri Yatani was. But one thing that stood out, if you look at the amount of money that was given to development, especially in the country, it was quite minimal, because that's exactly where the government was cutting this money so that we could redistribute it to other sectors of the economy.
Yes.
Did it occur to you? And I want to talk to you about the economic stimulus package. We did see a lot of money that was splashed on infrastructure in the country. Would you say that that in one way is going to affect you directly, since if you have good roads, if you've got good infrastructure in the country, then your sector is being, I would say, in a sense, being propped up, therefore, in 2020, 2021?
Yes, I looked at the figures that Ukuri Yatani had, and transport stands out. Notably the SGR, LAPSET, the ports, and ferry, and a bit of the energy sector. So some money put in it. Water. Those are critical areas of logistics. But we can never do enough to be able to make this sector work for the country the way it should.
Yes.
The wheels of development anywhere in the world run on logistics. Right logistics, countries that have done well, even the developed world, count them. Their logistics were well thought out, well organized, well funded, such that you go into their roads, their rail system, their integration. You can have all this, but if they don't integrate in a way that sorts out the messes within the country, then people do not get the real benefits that they should get had it been done better. Look at our city center. Go to Tomboya Street even now. You can't move. We have made our city center a parking yard. An economy that cannot move, cannot improve, because trade is a function of movement, and not just movement, quick movement. I want to, as a serious foreign direct investor, want to come to Nairobi in the morning through the airport, go to the UN headquarters, see two other people, pass through State House, go back to the to my country within that day, because time is money. Is it possible to do that in our situation today from the airport? The main airport, Uhuru Highway, going through Mombasa Road, it will take you 2 hours to get to the western part of the city.
Yes.
These are the kind of things we are saying. So yes, Ukuri Yatani in the budget has put in figures in there. In fact, transport is number 2 after education.
Yes.
But it's still not good enough. This sector is more important than people think, because everyone else relies on it. I have seen a lot of infrastructural development going on within the city, making the city use non-motorized systems, the bicycles and the walkways and all that. Very nice. But we need to sort out the public sector transport first. And Ukuri Yatani should have put some little money there in the public sector transport, where we have the touts, where we have those drivers, where there's too much confusion. Those fellows need to be sorted out fast. Why do I say this? When we sort out the public sector transport such that it's clean, it is scheduled, it's organized, it's safe, you and me who drive their own vehicles, coming alone in one vessel, will be attracted to use that. Then you can close the parkings, all the parkings, because our city center cannot be a parking yard where you leave your vehicle at 6 in the morning and pick it at 6 in the evening. This is a business center where people must move freely and quickly and safely, and that is not happening. So in our next budget, probably I would encourage that we see a lot more in the sectors of transport. I'm not saying SGR is not a good one. They're very, very nice.
Yes.
I'm not saying LAPSET is not a good one. In fact, LAPSET should move from the east coast to the west coast of Africa, and that will open the whole of Africa.
Yes.
But that is at a different level. I'm not saying the ferry and the port are not, but there are other smaller sectors that will encourage smaller business people
Yes.
to multiply their investment fairly quickly, because they are able to make many turns instead of one. Even the matatu sector itself. They are investors. They put in a lot of the investments in those vessels. If they cannot move faster, or if they can move more trips than necessary,
yes,
then they not recoup their initial capital, and they lose out in the final end.
Yes. But we want to take you back to 2019. Yes, because that's exactly where we can draw our conclusions from. What would you say were your standout areas that you would say, well, here we did exploit it fully, or in this other area when we come to transport and logistics, we pretty much didn't get it in 2019?
In the logistics and transport sector, we are still wobbling, and I think it's an area that everyone thinks should be led by someone else. It's an area that is, look, I take you back to the matatu industry.
Yes.
Who is running the matatu industry? Are you even proud to be called a tout?
No.
And yet, some of those fellows make more money than other professionals elsewhere.
Yes.
It is time that we recognize touting. We can call it a different name, as a profession, so that, and with a profession with ordination process, where I know that to be a tout in that manner, I have to go to some school and learn customer service, and learn basic vehicle care, and learn basic, basic security issues that have to go around the matatu industry.
Yes.
And I am proud that this is where I belong, because really that's where I belong, and I get my daily bread from it. Then they can be motivated to be able to look up to society and say, yes, this is what I do, and it's very good, and I want to make it better. Then support them through training, because this is a sector everyone thinks that you go to when every other door is closed. You can not be a lawyer, you cannot be an educator, you cannot be an engineer,
yes,
then you cannot go to any college. I am going to be a tout. It is time that that changes. Once it changes from the bottom, the drivers know that they are not just wheel spinners, but they are carrying lives of people, citizens. They are people who are going to work. They are people who have other responsibilities to do. We have a responsibility to take them when we say we should take them.
Yes.
Then the sector improves and attracts people like you and me who get easily the vehicle as an alternative. And remember, the vehicle is the biggest congester in the whole of this. It's the one that's creating this message you're seeing. Because you come in, you park it there, you want to drive it, I want to drive, he wants to drive, someone else wants to drive. You have 5 people who should have come in one vessel, come in 5 different vessels. When our focus gets into those small issues, then we expand the economy through transport and logistics and
yes,
the base. Mm-hmm. And it makes a big difference.
Well, Mr. Boya, would you therefore say that training, especially in the transport and logistics sector, is an area that has not been fully exploited, therefore, from your sentiments?
I would like by saying,
yes,
would you like your daughter or son to do transport? Is this something that would come very easily in your head, that I want my son and daughter to go and study transport?
No money.
No.
Yes.
No, people think of other areas.
Fast before.
Transport comes.
Lack of opportunity, fact, then let's go to transport.
Transport comes on personal initiative. The young man has discovered there's some money I can get here.
Yes. And
people just discover that so-and-so is a tout nowadays.
Yes.
But no one is proud to announce that I am going to study this thing, yes, I am in this sector. And that comes to the educational institutions. Who teaches transport? Tell me. Very few. And logistics, up to 8 years ago, even the universities were not. I remember I went to some of our universities, I will not name, where one professor told me, very good idea, but I don't think it will work. Yes, it's working,
yes,
but the pace is very slow.
Yes.
Training in this sector is very, very little. Very little.
Pretty much. All right, let's therefore move on to, so somebody listening to you this morning and is wondering, wow, I hear Mboya speak. So what are the opportunities that you see that are open in the transport and logistics sector that you would like somebody listening to you today to pretty much immerse themselves into, because there is an opening in that area?
There's a lot of opportunities. In freight sector, for example, the goods and services coming from abroad, all of that moves through some means.
Yes.
There's opportunities in procurement. Procurement would have very little opportunity in that sector. Every vessel that moves has an opportunity for employment. We only need to reorganize this to create organized opportunities. The ministry came up with a SACCOS.
Yes.
Very good idea of having SACCOS work towards managing the various routes within every area. The problem is those SACCOS are infested by people who are not properly trained in management of transport. They are investors, they bring in the money. But the expertise of doing this in an optimal manner that brings in more bread to them, but also it does not inconvenience users and other people, and brings more to the government, so that the budget, part of quite a chunk of government revenue comes from them.
Yes.
Is not exploited the way it should be.
Yes.
If we organize that sector in a way that, like in the city, if you had those SACCOS, first and foremost, trained, managed by people who have gone through some ordination,
yes,
then each SACCO to manage each route. Because at the moment the problem we have is the SACCOS, which are not SACCOS. They are just an amalgamation of vessels. Because you go there and you still run your vehicle the way you want.
Yes.
The second one runs the way they want. You find each vehicles of each SACCO outweighting each other.
Yes.
So it brings competition that is unhealthy. Because people, you should see how those vessels look.
Yes.
Those are the kind of things I'm saying, and that is in every sector. Each vehicle that runs there can employ 2 or 3 people.
Yes.
Forget about the management. And how many do we have? Are they properly employed? Is it an organized sector that can bring change to our country? We only need to organize.
Just tweak it a little.
And distribution sector in this country has a lot to offer everybody. In every sector, we are distributing help. We are distributing farm produce.
Yes.
We are everything. All that sector has opportunity for everybody. We only need to organize it. We only need to, there's something we are working with the Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development on this. And soon people will see a curriculum that is dedicated to the country and meets the needs of the country.
Pretty much.
And that probably will be a game changer in its way on how this sector is run. And maybe will attract interest from government and other investors to put in more money.
Yes. All right. So finally, as we clear, and I'm getting told that we only have 1 minute to end this conversation. There are a lot of areas that we can touch on, and I'll call you back on this. So the government is actually now stressing so much on private-public partnerships. But I want to talk to you about exactly what is happening with the SGR, which was touted to be the biggest in terms of transport and logistics within the country. But there seems to be a pull and push now, Mboya, when you look at exactly the way in which investors in the country and also guys in the transport and logistics are looking at SGR. It's a big focus even on the 2020-2021 budget. What would be the magic bullet for the government drawing numbers, therefore, to the freight services of the SGR?
SGR is an excellent idea. But I want to go to Busia. I want to take my goods to Busia. They come through the port of Mombasa, I offload it from the ship, put it on SGR, which comes up to Nairobi. Then what happens? I have to offload it from SGR, put it on another vessel to take it to Busia or any other part of the country for that matter. That inconveniences the user, and that enables the user to use so many different third parties instead of one. That's where the problem is. I can imagine if the SGR went through Kisumu border, Kampala, Rwanda, as our train, the original one was, then you can have stockpiling in Kisumu, Naivasha if you like, to cover the various areas, so that the last mile is done by other vessels rather than the main. I think that's where the problem is. Number two is change and the way change is managed. People have been used to using trucks from Mombasa. The government has a responsibility to explain to the users and take them through so that this is sector managed. They understand it from the word go that this change is going to take place. This is how you are going to carry out. These are the benefits you are going to get. These are the challenges you are going to get, and this is how you are going to go through these challenges. So everyone looks up to that change before it happens. That normally is received a lot better than if the change is immediate and impactful. In some cases, reaching out into losses to the individual investors. I think that's where the problem is. But the idea is very good. Of course, in SGR there were claims of corruption and all that. That's at a different level. But the whole idea of having SGR up to the very end of the country, so that go further and even SGR the trunks into the various towns, production towns where economic stimulus can be done by access to cheap and bulk transport.
Yes.
Yeah, train would really do that.
Pretty much, Mr. Mboya. Lovely having this discussion. Guess what? We're going to call you back again. There are a lot of issues that we can actually handle in the transport and logistics sector within the country. You'll be the right man for us to talk to. All right, take him back to the time that he came into the studio this morning at Metropole TVKE. Get to listen to his sentiments, what we need to do now more than ever to move away from what he calls a gamble within the transport and logistics sector in the country, to sanitize it. Share his sentiments on a proper training. Like that is exactly what we need, just to make sure that we do know exactly what it is that we're doing in the transport and logistics sector. This has been Business today in the morning. We were speaking to George Mboya, logistics specialist at the Chartered Institute of Logistics and Transport. And that's your show this morning.